Hey everyone, I think you should be able to hear me now. Hey. Oh well, yeah, I'm listening to myself, so yes, you can definitely hear me. Oh well, yeah, I'm listening to myself, so yes, you can definitely hear me. Hi. Ah, sorry. Too many screens open, too many things happening at once. Not sure what is actually happening some of the time. Right. Sorry about that. Yeah, I can show you. Let's get started. I just added a timer to the starting sequence. Looks alright, doesn't it? It's simpler than I thought it would be. Well, mostly because somebody made a handy app for it. Hey, lief zijn. I wanted to show you. I don't know how I can do that. Don't be scared. This is me, very big. Sorry about that. I don't know if you can see him. I can move my camera a little bit. That's our little puppy. He's very afraid because people in our neighborhood think it's still necessary to put up fireworks. It's been, what is it, 3 weeks now, more, since New Year's. So it's illegal. It's not necessary. Nobody loves that. But we have a lot of people in the neighborhood who think it's still funny to put up fireworks. Both. Yep, I know. Every time that happens, he's. Oh, this is just it's breaking your damn heart. Look at him. He's just lying there, being so sad. Yeah, so every time there's a firework, even in the far distance, he's cowering under the bed or coming up and then sitting under my desk or sitting on the little chair of comfort, we call it. So, but there's good news on the horizon. They're planning to finally ban consumer fireworks, or at least like the baggy sounds of them. So then the pretty ones, the siervuurwerk in Dutch, I don't know what it's called in English, would still be allowed. But the just like the big heavy bang fireworks, they're basically mortars some of the time, would finally actually get banned, which I'm very much looking forward to. And then there'll just be communal firework displays and stuff. That'll be amazing. Anyway, so the plan for tonight. I have an issue for Colony Manager that I want to take a look at, because it affects. Apparently, it's running very slowly. It's causing a lot of slowdown, especially on some slower computers. But it's basically running things it shouldn't be running on every tick, and just in general taking way too much CPU time. So this guy is, I think, yeah, I think this one is after he takes Colony Manager out or something. I don't know exactly what it's supposed to be. But this is an empty map. He hasn't actually done anything. And Colony Manager, the map comp tick, is just taking like almost, what is that? Going to be down to like a quarter, a fifth, up to a third of the time, the CPU time. So that's not good. That's something we probably should have a look at. Also, I had a bug report earlier, which I thought would be easy. It was this one. Somebody reported that jobs aren't working, so I had a look at the actual output log, and it didn't seem related to me at all. It's always nice. I told them where to go look. So this is in a patch for Pond at Work, which was actually added by a patch added by Cooking Oil, which it turns out is from Fermenter mod. Hey, excuses. Nice to see you here. Oh, you are actually Palador. Okay, cool. So yeah, that's something I want to have a quick look at as well. So maybe if you could describe later to me what is actually going on. And Smashville, I haven't actually taken a look myself, but it appears that Dubs of the Dubwise mods has made like a resource monitor kind of thing, which should apparently, if I saw that correctly, be able to track like memory usage, garbage collection, and CPU time live. So let's find out what it does together. Hey Adolf, nice to have you here again. You just listening in tonight, or? Yeah, excuses me. I can get that it might be a mod conflict. I'm just worried. Like I don't understand why it would be to do with WorkTap, to be honest. So you will have to explain that to me, because I'm normally not. I don't actually touch any of the job code and stuff. All right. Well, that's good. So I guess we don't need to look at it then. Oh yeah. The problem is I'm unable to reproduce the problem. Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, yeah, good. I like issues that resolve themselves. I'm still not sure how this could have ever been related to me, so yeah, it would have been. Well, anyhow, glad we got it resolved quickly. And somebody said anything for WorkTap. Ah, that's you again. All right, cool. So let's have a quick look at the mod that they were using. So that was what did they call it? Dubs Resource Monitor. I guess it's not on Steam. He is still on Steam, right? He's got the hygiene mod. No, doesn't appear to be on Steam. Yeah, excuses. Okay. I mean, I guess it's always possible that in some weird way there's an interaction there. I just don't understand how that could be the case here. But that being said, I don't understand a lot of things, and so yeah. That's not helping. I had a thingy there. I'm not even sure how to get there from here. Sure, why not? We can have a look. Ah, there we go. Right, so it's still a work in progress. That's why he's not done anything about it. But this is a working version, right? Yeah. Yeah. Dubs posts stuff on GitHub, but he doesn't actually post the source code, which is honestly peeps me out a little bit. Like, you're gonna use GitHub, then use it properly. It's also because I'm jealous. He does cool stuff, which I would like to find out how he does it. But I guess he doesn't want me to. That ought to do the trick. Equals it something else here. Oh well, that's fine. And we will need to add colony manager. Let's see what happens. You should be able to post a link now. Okay. Where is this supposed to show up? It appears to be just on GitHub. I'll post the link here. Set the keybind to open the window. Right. What do we want to set this to? I don't know. Equals. Probably going to regret that, but okay. That's doing something. Oop. God. Why in heaven's sake are you ticking that much? Okay, yeah, that is ridiculous. Because we haven't got anything in here yet. Like, there's no jobs in here whatsoever. Alright. I'll have a look in a second, excuse. Okay, so I'm doing something silly in the tick method for the main map component, apparently. Because this is, yeah. This is not okay. So that would be in manager, I think. Yeah, that's the map component. And then the on tick. Right, so I'm ticking over all of the jobs, but that shouldn't be the problem. Because we don't have a job, so there's nothing to tick over there. That shouldn't be taking too long. Let's get rid of some of the other stuff. Oh, wait, that. Yeah, there we go. So the problem should then be in the tab ticks. So if we look at the tabs, I have a sneaky suspicion that it might be the electricity tab. Because I think that might be doing a check for some tables existing or something. Anyway, the base thing has nothing. It's just an empty virtual. I think most tabs have nothing. Yeah, nothing. Can I see where this is getting overridden? Yes, I can, I think. Yeah, so power tab is basically the only one that is actually overriding it, so that has to be it. Yeah, so every 2000 game ticks, this is doing something. This is getting, yeah, this is doing the entire, this is updating the power graph. I had not realized that this was so heavy. And when is this enabled? When it's unlocked and any powered station is online. So it's not even enabled yet. It's just these two checks that are then apparently the painful bit. So I think unlocked is just a flag that gets set by a research somewhere. Hey Orbit, nice to have you here. By research somewhere. Where the heck did I put that? There we go. Yeah. So this is just a research mod, so that just gets applied when the research for PowerTap is done. Then this just gets applied, and also when you load a game when it's already done. Blah 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 blah. So that it's just a simple toggle. That's not going to be the problem. Did it close it again? Yeah. Looking at enabled, so the problem is going to be in any powered station online. We're doing a lister buildings for all buildings of this class, getting the comps on them, and seeing if there's that many. This cannot possibly be that heavy, can it? I have trouble seeing how this could be the culprit here. Is there a better? Can I select by def or something? No, I don't want to select by def. Yeah. I don't want to select by def because I've got several defs that could be doing this. There's 2 at the moment, and there could be more. So I don't particularly want to do that. The common thing that they have in common is that they have the building manager station class, and for the power tab they need to be powered, so they need to have like a computer thing or something. That's like the underlying idea there. But I fail to see how this could possibly be the problematic part. I think it's somehow skipping that maybe and running the actual power calculations anyway. Not sure how, but it doesn't even have to skip that. It does this. Why would it? We only need to update the history once we have a power station. It doesn't make any sense to store history of power consumed, used, whatever, before we even have power or have a powered manager table. It doesn't make any sense that we have that history available, so we don't need to do that. So this should help a little bit, at least in the early game. That still doesn't fix the underlying problem. But this should make things a little bit better at least. Okay, so if we look at these again and look at the game tick. Yeah. That's more like it. So there's basically nothing else running. I still don't like how it's taking even this much, because right now it should just be making a very, very straightforward tick. But alright, let's have a quick look what that would be like in a more typical situation. So we have a larger map and we'll add us a little test colony and see what kind of proportion we're actually using then. So this is probably more similar to a real game. You've got a couple of pawns, or quite a few pawns running around doing things. There's some jobs to be done, etc, etc, etc. And if we look at it, then it's still taking quite a long time, to be honest. I'm not entirely happy with that, but all right. I'm really impressed with this, actually. This is really cool. I will definitely have to start actually using this when I develop my mods, just to see if there's something perf analysis. It's quite quick as well. What was I going to say? Yeah, just to see if I'm doing something stupid, something silly, causing lag spikes, things like that. And he's actually already building some some fixes as well to fix some problems, I guess. That's pretty cool. You can see what the problem is, what work givers are taking the most time. Yeah, this is really cool. All right, so this has solved the problem to the extent that it's not as egregious anymore. That being said, now we actually have some powered stuff, and we should also have the powered stations now. Where are they at? Is that one? No. The problem with this testing is that it pretty much randomly puts them down somewhere. But yeah, this is the station. So we have a powered managing desk now. And if we research the thing we're looking at, then now it will probably start taking quite a bit longer again, because now we are actually doing the map config. But no, apparently it's not. It is running now. I mean, this is working. I'm confused. Why does it not show up here? I would expect this to be terrible, to be honest. Oh yeah, there we go. Huh. Not as bad as I thought it would be. My colonist is burning itself up in the background. Poor palms. Alright. Not entirely sure what we can do about this now. It seems to be doing quite okay, or at least not as egregious anymore when nothing is happening, and when stuff is happening, it's not as bad proportionally. So I think I'll just put this out as a partial fix and see if I can get some feedback from people actually playing it, because that's always the problem with this kind of stuff, is that I don't have the time to properly playtest all of the different scenarios and things with more mods in it and all that kind of jazz. So yeah, it's hard for me to see what would happen in different scenarios. So to an extent, the players are actually your beta testers, and of course, you don't want to be, you don't want to put out things that you know are just terrible, but you can't get to perfection. At least not in my experience. So partially fix colony managers high CPU usage. Restricted power tab to only update when needed. That will. That should help a little bit. Let's quickly push that, and then I want to have a quick look at the code that excusez-moi. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. It's not French, is it? Because then it's be excusez-moi. So I don't know. Anyway, the stuff he sent, and see if I can see what the problem is there with maybe some kind of interaction between different patches and something. But I have a sneaky suspicion that if he couldn't find it, I can't find it either, because I'm not great at patches, and I don't know what it could possibly be interacting with. But anyway, let's quickly push this out. Just push a few changes which at least resolve some of the issues with high CPU usage on an empty colony. Please let me know place like, and in particular if you found any problems with specific tabs or types of jobs. With any problems, specific tabs or types of jobs. Thank you very much. Alright, that should have updated. So if we go to Colony tab manager, yeah, that's there. All right. I was sent some code. Are you okay with me showing this on stream? Excuse me. I assume you are, but it's always good to double check. Sorry, why is Dubs being a dick? Is it the not sharing source code? Or yeah, sorry, I know you are. That's just your Twitch handle, so that's what I refer to you because that's what I'm seeing there. But yeah, okay. So yeah, this is Pilator's code in the renderer mod, which, if I understand it correctly, is adding a couple of mechanics to cooking. One of which is rendering down animal fat and stuff into cooking oil. Oh wow! So he actually banned you from the server. Okay, I asked him about it a while back, and I don't think he's responded to me. I guess if I bring it up now, then he's not. Okay. Oh, you did respond. Let's get into it then in a sec. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. All right. Well, no. Let's quickly go over this because this is a discussion to be had, to be honest. So this is a pretty famous modder. Dubwise, he's got some pretty good mods out there, some pretty cool mods that do some pretty drastic changes to the base game. So the bad hygiene and stuff adds a hygiene mechanic. It adds water, filth, what do you call it, sewage systems, and all that kind of jazz. So this is quite. I mean, he's doing pretty good work. I've never actually looked at his code because, frankly, I can't. But so because he doesn't publish his source code, I don't understand that. I don't understand why you wouldn't. So if you're looking at the source code folder for RIM Atomics, it's like 6 GB of files. I mean, I have no idea how you could possibly get that to be 6 GB or why that would need to be 6 GB. I can't even fathom what he's doing there. I mean, cannot possibly be code because then the actual DLLs would also be massive or something. So like, what is it then? You can just open the DLL so it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's true. So why not open source it anyway? Then at least we can see how you originally intended it, because then we can see your commands. We can see in your yield blocks and stuff. We can see them without all of the decompiler garbage in them. And we can actually help you fix bugs if necessary. Stops random plebs for just copying, pasting stuff and releasing it. I've got some of the most popular mods on the workshop, and this has never happened. This has just never happened ever. I mean, my entire mods get copied and pasted on random Russian and Chinese sites and whatever. Sure. We had a few issues in the beginning with some people making mod compilation packs, taking things without giving credit. But they would just take whole DLLs anyway, and I mean, frankly, he was also taking the time to. And we're talking about what was his name? Something Fingers. I forgot. Mostly, it's the hardcore social pack or something. HCSK. I think it's still around. Anyway, but lately he's been doing much better about that. He's crediting people. He's actually keeping his versions of our mods up to date and stuff. So fine. I mean, I can't blame him because that's in the license. I've never had anybody download like a half-finished master unintentionally. It just hasn't happened. I've had a few people who were actually doing it because they wanted to work on them or they wanted to change something, and then I get some questions like, okay, why is your master not up to date and something? And then I mean, these are people that know how to mod and they know what to do, so it's fine. I mean, they can figure it out once you give them a couple of hints. I get moaned at for all the offensive language and all the commits and temporary code. I have plenty of offensive language in the commits and temporary code, so that nobody's ever complained. I use publicized DLL, so anyone trying to load my source that doesn't know what they're doing would get confused and not be able to compile it too. I don't even know what that means. Yeah, I don't know what that means. People copy my unfinished buggy code without permission, release a mod with it, either don't mention me in their description, which is a bit shitty, or do mention me and that part of their mod doesn't get work properly and doesn't get updated with the bug fixes I do for that particular feature over time. Yeah, but either they don't mention you, so it's not your problem, basically. I mean, it's shitty that they steal your stuff, but yeah, like you said, that's going to happen anyway, and I mean, hopefully they'll still make it better and it's just a learning resource. Or they do mention you, and then people know where to go for the real deal, right? Then people say, well, make a framework for it, but it need to be stable and work perfectly from the start. It's no good constantly changing it for my own users and breaking people's mods in the process because I need to add a param here and there or recode the whole thing. I'm not sure what you're talking about specifically there, but I mean, I know of a couple of frameworks that are core to the entire game and are well updated. And if you do that correctly, and if you think about what your public API is going to be and not break that, then it should be fine. Yeah, Alien Races framework springs to mind. Harmony is another thing that is I mean, shared multiple instances working together. It just takes a little bit more time to do that properly. And maybe for little Pokemods with hardly any files like Remkade I could, but nobody would be interested in that anyway. I'm interested. Yeah. The in the Performance Analyzer channel. It's an easy way to quickly release updates and mods with zipping and dropping in every version. Yeah, okay, fair enough. That's true. GitHub is a great way to release your code and to release your build mods. I do that too. I don't think GitHub likes being used as just a Dropbox alternative, though, to be honest. And frankly, if you do have a decent release script, it's quite easy to keep a list of all of your mods around. So I have too many mods, first of all. Anyway, here I have this archives folder. So every time I may do an update, I push a release version, it also gets added to this archive folder. So this goes way back. It would be very simple for me to split this up by mod and put it in a Dropbox file. I just put this folder in a Dropbox file and have people supplied with all of my mods going way back. Or putting it on Steam where 100k people sub to it regardless if you call it a work in progress. I can agree with that. That's fine. But that has nothing to do with putting your code on GitHub or not. I never did open source before. Don't want to get spammed with push requests or have some asshat release it on Steam before I do. Never had that problem. I've had a couple of ideas that were just in my head getting stolen. Which is annoying because they were going to be amazing in my head, and then somebody else does them. So I take a nice sip of coffee to calm down from that, and then I congratulate them on a job well done. Usually, I've got a couple of pieces of code that are on GitHub that are half working. I've even released them as like work in progresses. I would actually like it if people would do something with that, because obviously I don't have the time to do it. So I've got this this spatial priorities thing, which I think could be a game changer if it works correctly. I just haven't had the time to do it properly. This has been around for 15 months now, apparently. I thought it was less. I thought it was much less, but apparently I've been slacking off longer than I thought. So the idea is that it would introduce like an Oxygen not included type of priority areas, wherein jobs in higher priority areas would be done before jobs in lower priority areas. I released that. It kind of works. It had a few minor bugs, and it had a large quantum entanglement of all farm fields bug, which kind of made me cry and stop doing it. But I mean, the theory is sound. It's probably just something weird in the way that the farming work giver is different from all the others, because it considers like a larger group of jobs potentially to be done or something. I mean, whatever. That doesn't matter. But I mean, nobody stole that. Nobody's looking at your GitHub page and going like, ooh, I could steal that and release it before dub. For one thing, even if they did, I mean, when I release something, even if it's a tiny little shitty mod, I've got so many people looking on my workshop that it actually gets popular. And when somebody new does that, they don't get picked up. I mean, you need to be in these three mods. These get popular. Like the most popular items in the past week, that's what everybody sees. You don't get in there, you don't get popular, at least not quickly. It takes much, much longer. and it's just hard to get in there as a newbie. And yeah, this is a ramble. I'm. Does anybody have like? Do you guys feel different? Do you think that? Congratulations, Smash! It's going to explode. Be ready for some Steam comments and stuff. Um, do you guys feel like? How do you feel about putting stuff on GitHub? Putting your source code on GitHub? Do you do it? Do you wait for it? Do you not? Like, do you put it up after you think it's good enough to be shared, or do you just put up your work in progress, or do you not put it up at all? Or I mean, when I say GitHub, I mean you can also use other public sources. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's partially an honesty thing, because I want people to be able to check theoretically. Nobody's going to do that, but theoretically, that I don't do anything malicious in my mods, because you can do whatever you want in a mod. You have complete access. You can contact the internet. You have the same user privileges as the game has, which means you could do some proper exploits, probably. I'm not a hacker. I don't know much of that stuff. I know enough to know that this is possible. So, like, it's good to have the source code available and to just be honest about it. Okay, this is what's going on. I also think I learned a lot from other people who did the same thing. Yeah, I mean, what Smashville, I completely agree with that. I mean, I learned a lot from other people on how they do it, and even if I choose to think like, okay, I see what you're doing there. It's pretty quick. I don't usually don't copy it unless it's. Sometimes I do copy things and I try to be open about it, and I'll put a link in the source code or whatever. It's like, okay, this is where I stole this idea from. But generally speaking, I just think like, well, that's interesting, and then I give it my own twist and do something with it like that. Um, and yeah, I mean, I've had lots of people helping me out and solving problems for me and adding things, adding translations, adding extra features. I mean, we went over some extra features for Colony Manager the other day, to the extent that I had to reject people who made things for me. It's like that's awesome. That also fosters a bit of community. I mean, Dubwise has his own Discord and he's helping people in there and chatting with people, which is nice. But it feels a little bit like yeah, patriarchal or something. I don't know. Just chill out or I'll pull it from GitHub. Wow. You did properly piss him off, didn't you, Adolf? But that's the thing, though. You don't. I'm sure you were, Adolf, but you do. I've seen you discuss with, I think, E and Brains at some points, and you are able to piss people off quite heavily. Um, but I don't know if you guys had problems with people actually commenting on your source code and saying like you're doing this wrong or something. I mean, I've never had a negative experience with that. Maybe it's just. I mean, I don't think it's because I'm doing everything properly, because I'm making plenty of stupid mistakes. So I don't understand why. Yeah, but I mean, I can understand that there are reasons to. Yeah. Wow, I'm just amazed at how. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's. Yeah, that's people asking questions. That's fine. Anyway, let's stop bashing Dubwise. I'm going to ask him. I'm going to send this to him and I'm going to ask him what his opinion is about it. I don't want to. Like I said, I have great respect for some of the mods he made. I have massive respect for this actually. This this looks like it could be a very, very useful tool. Which at the same time also makes me very curious about how it's done. So this is another reason why I would love to see the source code for that. Anyway, I was going to look at some of Pergador's code. I'm saying that correctly? Pergador, I think. So this is a patch for the do work or notify pawn did work for on the bill class. So whenever a pawn is working on a bill, and the bill can be anything on the workstation basically. So it's slaughtering things to making clothes or whatever. Everything that's done on a workstation is a bill. And for that matter, pawns are considered workstations as well. So operating on a pawn is also a bill. It's always fun to know. So what you're doing is you're post-fixing after the original thing is taking place, after the original method is taking place. You're post-fixing your own bit of logic, which is a giant nested if statement. Okay. First of all, I don't think you need to do both the tag on it and labeling it a postfix. I think if it's called a postfix, it will automatically assume that it's a postfix. This is only if you call it something different. But I do think then it should be postfix with a lowercase level. But you do you. So you're using a hash interval tick, which is a good thing, because that's one of the things that I could have done here. Because this is basically what I am doing here. Is I'm saying like, okay, if this is the 2000 tick, so that's every couple of seconds, then do this. And a hash interval tick is doing the same kind of a comparison, but it's doing it against the hash of the object that you're actually ticking. Which is much better when you're working with things like bills or pawns or whatever, where there's multiple of them, because otherwise they would all do it at once. No, you don't. It does assume. Okay. So this is, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm assuming this is working. I'm not going to go too deeply into it, but is there any reason you're using this? You're nesting all of these if statements, and you're not just making it one larger one? I mean, this might just be personal preference, but I prefer to do. I guess I need to get a better example. Yeah, I guess. And I would prefer to have them as separate conditions. So more like if yeah, sure, if async and b and whatever, and just keep it all on one line. But I guess that's entirely personal preference. Sure. I have to say, it does make it kind of hard to read. For me, at least. And then you're using the oil, and you're using the pawn in that, the job driver, and the oil. Are you null checking the oil? You said that the commented out section was the old method causing the issue. I don't have any commented out section in here. I think. Did I accidentally already delete that? Middle of the nest near the end. Am I that blind? Did I actually miss it? Oh wow. Oh yeah. Get cache driver. So that's a vanilla method that is failing. Okay, interesting. I have no idea what that is. So the job drivers is the bits of code that actually tells upon how a job works. Where a job is created out of a series of I would call them tasks, but they have a different name. I'm sure they're toils. So a toil is like walk to this position, pick it up, pick something up, do some other code, then drop whatever's left and walk back to a different position or something. Then that would then be a series of 4 toils, and together that would make a job or job driver. So the cache driver is just a bit of code that's supposed to then it should be erroring in this one, right? Is there any? Did you do any triage on this? Did you find out where it's going wrong or anything? Yeah. I also have no idea. And this is definitely not something that the work tab concerns itself with, because this is actually going down into the like the actual job AI system and stuff, and that's really not what I change. I change on a much higher level. What I change is the work settings. These. Like you can say work givers in order. That's what I change, basically. So I keep track of my own list of priorities for all of the work givers. So all of the little sub jobs within a work type. And I use that to completely override this one. And then I refresh that every hour for the time priorities, and stuff like that. But I don't touch at all the underlying code of how pawns decide to do what job, besides then the actual priority of it, or let alone anything in the actual jobs. So I honestly, I really don't think it's related to WorkTab. And I also really couldn't tell you right now why this is happening. You need to at least know what is going on, where it's, who is, like which other mods are doing something with this. Because this part is super simple. This is just a really simple cache mechanic. Then when you're looking at the make driver, again, this is not rocket science. This is like instantiating the driver classes for the typical jobs. And the bug report I've seen go wrong is for wood chopping, of all things. I mean, that's a bug that's been around, or sorry, a job that's been around in vanilla since pretty much the beginning, I would guess. So if that was really a problem, I mean, that cannot itself be the problem. So, I don't know. I don't think so. No. No. The only thing when there could be timing issues and stuff is when you're multi-threading, and Rimworld doesn't multi-thread. So maybe you're just not supposed to call this function at this point, but then it doesn't do all that much. But I really don't understand why this would go wrong, to be honest. Unless the pawn is null. But it can't be null because then you would... No. Um... No, I don't. No, I'm not seeing it. I don't know. No. If anyone finds out, please let me or Pilador know, and we'll inform each other, I guess. If you do find out what's going on there, I'd be interested to hear about it. But I have no idea right now. No. Okay. Let's have a look at some more issues. Right. Can I sort this? That'll be kind of interesting. You try to do the oldest ones first. I guess the oldest ones are the ones with the lowest numbers, right? Oh well. It's not even that many, to be honest. There's only 40 of them. Just fewer than I expected it to be. And some of them have been around for ages. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but... Yeah. But, I mean, if it works, right? So you don't always need to know why it fails. I've had a couple of magic... As far as I was concerned, I'm sure other people would not find it magic, but patches that just wouldn't work. And I think in large parts that was because I was doing things in yield statements that didn't used to work for a little while, and in a try-fail block or something, and I just didn't realize that was actually a bug with Harmony or something, so I just assumed I was doing it wrong. And then later on, it probably now works, because I think they've resolved those issues, but I don't know. If it works, and otherwise just keep trying different things until it does. Anyway, yeah, happy to have a look at it, and yeah, thanks for coming by and explaining what was going on. Let's stay on Colony Manager for a bit. So this one we're looking at. Let's look at Code Optimist's bug report, because he was here 2 days ago and I promised him I would have a look. Alright, so the problem is selected foraging thing isn't added to count filter. After selecting it on the right side, should show up in filter like with other tabs. Observe it empty. Yeah. Wouldn't do you dirty like that. Yeah, thanks. No, I think this is actually true, and I just never implemented that. So it's not as much a bug as it is just a feature that is not there. But let's have a quick look. So what he's talking about is in the manager, if you go to the mining tab, it's synchronized it. So this threshold is now counting nothing. But if I were to enable something, so for example digging for gold ore, then the threshold would actually start counting gold, which is quite useful. It was also a little bit tricky to set up, and it's not entirely reliable. I forget, but there are some edge cases in which it kind of fails. So you'd have to look at it manually anyway. I think that is not the case for this one. So this one always counts wood by default, because it's a lumber tab. But if I were to add something, it doesn't automatically add the products of these trees, for example, to the threshold. No. And what he's actually complaining about, because for trees, it's not for lumber tab, it's not such a problem, because it's all wood. Usually there are some mods that add some other stuff, so it could be useful to have it auto sync there too. But what he's mainly complaining about, I think, is the foraging tab, where it does make sense that this would automatically be linked. So the foraging tab automatically, it looks at ambrosia apparently, and agave and fungus. So I think it just looks at whatever is in there. Because what are we missing? Glowstool and Agarylux. Yeah, that would both be fungus, I guess. Yeah. And if I do some stuff with them, they don't change. So if I enable everything and then disable it, this really doesn't change. This just stays static. Alright, thanks for hanging around there, Delph. Have fun playing. Alright. Yeah, let's have a look. Let's see if we can implement that. Shouldn't be too hard. This is simpler than the mining thing, and we've already figured it out for the mining, so it shouldn't be too hard to figure it out for foraging. Yeah. It is. It really is, Smash. So I guess we can copy this again. So this is a sync direction. That was one of the problems with it, is that you need to keep track where a user is. So have they got the threshold open, then you need to sync from filter to allowed, and otherwise you need to sync from allowed to filter. I mean, it's a minor thing, but you just need to keep track of it, because otherwise you end up in a loop, basically. I think that was the problem. I don't know anymore. Either way, let's put this in the utilities somewhere. Don't particularly care. Do I have an enums file? I don't think I do. No, I don't. So utilities is probably the easiest way to put it. Yeah. And then we'll add that to the manager job for foraging. I'm glad you found it. It's just the search key, the search button there. And normally it searches for basically everything that has a meaning. So members, delegates, etc. And you can also search for hard-coded strings, which can be useful sometimes. But yeah. Alright, so we added the sync direction there. Let's quickly look at how this is, what this actually does again, because I'm not entirely certain anymore, to be honest. So let's have a quick look at the references here, usages. And that apparently crashes my Visual Studio. Yeah, doesn't want to show me that. Interesting. Okay. Can I do that another way? Advanced, maybe? Yeah? We're gonna do it now? This is kind of annoying. Ugh, how do I get you back in there? There. Can you find specific references, or is it only definitions? I think it's only definitions. But when you found the definition, it's fairly easy to get to the references. Because I assume you're aware of the analyze thing. Which is just saying like, okay, where is everything instantiated? Where is it used? Yeah. I mean, this is how you go through things mostly. Or how I go through things mostly. I think if you were to search for like the string constants, you could look for specific references. So if you know how it's referenced, then you should probably be able to do that. All right. So we can't find our references here, apparently. It's kind of annoying. So let's just quickly go over what is happening here. So this is drawing the little button on the left side. If I were to remake the calling manager, I would do this different and make sure that this is in some kind of base class. But it seems to be working now. So. Just trying to actually do the job. So you clean up your designations. You see how many you have like already in your stockpiles designated in various ways, and then you try to create new designations to get to the count you want to be. Simple enough. So some helper stuff, helper stuff, helper stuff. All helper stuff. Okay, so this is where sync comes in. This is apparently I made my own little setters and getters for this because allowed minerals are in a list, so I can't easily make setters and getters for them basically without creating a new data type and going through all of that stuff. Apparently I didn't want to do that, so I created a little function to mimic a setter or a getter. And in the setter I'm saying, so if we're filtering or if we're syncing, that was the little toggle in here, that one. Okay. And then here I'm saying this is the sync direction. Interesting. That is odd, Smashville. I've had a run-in with that kind of stuff before. I'm not sure where to look right now, but if you still can't find it later, we can have a look at it. I want to keep going on this problem for that. Yeah, so then we're basically saying for each material in that mineral, so everything that can drop from a specific mineral, so usually that will be just steel or gold or components or whatever, but it could potentially be more things. Some mods actually add like things like sand and stuff as well. Then you say like, okay, in the parent filter, if this is allowed, so this is for if this threshold filter is allowed to set that one, basically. So just, yeah, I don't know. I can't explain it any better. Well, I can actually. In the hunting tab, this is a filter with a parent filter that only allows foodstuffs. So it only allows meat, vegetarian, and animal products. So those are the only things that show up, and those are the only things that you're allowed to say, okay, this is active or not active, basically. Whereas for most of the other tabs, let's do foraging, it actually does everything. So if there's a mod that adds beer growing on trees, go make it. That sounds awesome. That's theoretically fine. You can use that for foraging. That would just work. For the same thing for all of this other stuff. Corpses. That would be horrendous. But it would work. Yeah, sure, you could. You could, if you want to store an int_fact3, you could store them as 3 separate ints, but you don't need to. Because int_fact3s are getting stored in the game. Positions are stored as int_fact3. Offsets for buildings and stuff are stored as int_fact3s. So it should entirely be possible to store them directly. I think the problem is just to find out how exactly that conversion works or something. But yeah. Okay, so that was going one direction. Then the other thing is that from the filter, it also needs to sync to the list of allowed minerals. So I'm not entirely sure where it does that, because that was also a thing. Flash also room divider. Yeah, this is all the logic for my terribly hacked version of detecting if removing a certain block of minerals would cause a cave-in. This is refresh. Where am I using that? Oh yeah, no, that's just refreshing the allowed of minerals on the list. That's just refreshing the list of minerals on the map, so that is allowed in the thing. Right, this is where it happens. Notify threshold filter changed. So on any change, if we're not syncing, or if we're syncing in the other direction, so this is basically stopping the loop, then we just go over everything on the allowed list and check if it is allowed in the threshold, and then blah 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 blah. Okay, that's simple enough. We can basically copy paste that and adapt that logic for the foraging. Yeah, we'll have to implement that. We should have this one already, but I should probably not put it in the tab. This needs to be in the job. Yeah, let's put this near the bottom. Okay. So in the job we have a sync filter and allowed toggle as well that we need to take with us. And we'll put that somewhere near the top. Actually, this is there. Again, I'm in the damn tab. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Pedro, I'm doing something similar in the work tab as well. I'm creating, so I'm storing a large list of integers, basically, because the work priorities for all of the pawns are a list of priorities for all of the work givers for every hour in a day. So it's for each pawn, there's 24 lists of about 80 work givers, each with their own priorities. So if you store that in the way RimWorld wants to store it, with like one nested XML element per entry, it becomes like giant. So I changed it also to have like just basically append all of the numbers, and Yeah, split them again when you're reading them in, which is easy enough to do when you know what you're doing. It's a little bit tricky to get your head around how scribing works the first time, but it's once you get the hang of it, it's relatively easy to also do custom things and like intercept it before it goes to scribing, so you can create some kind of different representation for saving it, and then intercept it again when you're loading it, so that you can recover from that different interpretation and stuff. It's kind of cool. It's an interesting subject to look at. You might have a look at that at some point, but not right now, because we're looking at syncing the filter and allowed. Okay, we don't have a separation between buildings and minerals here, we just have plants. So for each in allowed plants, this is just a var allowed plant, I'll just call it plant. Okay, allowed plants, plant equals, why is this not working? Okay. I'm just quickly putting in false in there. Obviously, we need to find a better way to. We need to, like, what this function is doing is saying, like, okay, what could possibly drop from this building, and if any of those are allowed with the threshold filter, then we allow gathering from that building. So we need to do something similar here and saying, like, okay, if any of the possible drops from this plant are allowed in our filter, we need to allow this plant. But I'm not, we need to make a thingy for that. I'm not sure why that one is complaining. Yeah, I need to look at the keys, of course. Duh. Sometimes I'm an idiot. Die. And I really don't think we need to make a new list for this, because it's not possible to do multiple enumeration here, because keys already makes a new list. So we need to have some kind of function that says get the drop from a plant. So what do we call it here? Get materials and mineral. So here we'll just say get materials and plant. So this is a list of thing defs, materials in plants, and this is coming from a plant, blah blah blah, and here we'll just return an empty list for now. List. Oh, come on, you should be able to autocomplete this. Yeah, there you go. Then here we can say is get materials in plant, any material, and we're looking at the filter here. So this is threshold, no, trigger, filter, threshold filter allows material. Okay, and this is not working because this is not a plant, this is a thing def. So we're working from the definition of a plant, not the actual instance of a plant. That shouldn't change too much. We needed to look at setting the allowed value, because similar to the mining thing, we need to make our own little getter and setter. Specifically, the setter is the most important. So we need to have a public void set allowed, or set plant allowed with a key for plant and a bool for allowed. And then we can basically copy the logic we had here again, if I can find it. Yeah, set allow mineral. It's a little bit different. Yeah, we'll need this as well because we'll need to have a flag to tell it to set things without syncing it back again. Yeah, I'll just copy paste this entire block again. It doesn't really matter very much. Manager clipping forwarder. This is if the plant is null. You can import the appropriate exception. Just change this a little bit, and this is allowed. Plants equals allow. I'll just change that. And we need a bool for syncing, and we'll default that to true. Cannot go from thing. Again, this should be a thing def. Sure. I mean, if we actually had plants, it would be simple enough to just say plant and then go down to the thing def from there. Because all of these instances of a plant have a reference back to the actual def. So it'd actually be plant def, I think. Yeah. So this is the simple part. This is just saying like, okay, if the plant is null, then we error out, garbage in, garbage out, whatever. Then we actually set it, and then we check, okay, if we're syncing, and this method is not flagged to not be syncing, then we change the sync direction, and we say for each material in, and this is saying get materials in mineral again. So that would be get materials in plant now, for the plant, obviously. And then we're saying for all of the materials that can drop from this plant, we're allowing them in the filter. Yeah, simple enough. This actually doesn't need to be changed anymore. We just need to make sure that we don't directly edit the allowed plants list anymore. So we're not allowed to touch this one directly anymore. That's simple enough. It would be simple if I could actually get a list of references. Wow, that is annoying. Alright, well, I know where it's being referenced mostly. You know, one hacky way to do this is just change the name and see where it breaks. In a lot of places, apparently. But we don't particularly care about the ones in the manager job, because those should basically be aware. But let's go over them quickly anyway. So this is a getter to get a label for all of the allowed plants. That's not interesting. This is storing things. Do we care at that point? No, because we don't care about syncing here. We're storing the allowed plant lists and the trigger, which is also storing the threshold separately. So those, I mean, if they were synced before, they will still be synced when they get stored and loaded. Yeah, I could always do find all, but then I would just find other stuff. This works just as well. This is again a getter. This is checking if it's allowed. So that's not terribly interesting. Okay. What is this? I don't think we need to change this. No, this is just a little security for new plants appearing on the map. So normally the list of plants available is limited to things that are actually things that are normally growing on this map. So this is a desert map, so we've got some agave, agaricus, whatever. The things can always grow. But it's entirely possible that things happen whereby new things get spawned. So you get, I don't know, some kind of event or whatever. So it's entirely possible that you suddenly get a type of tree or grass or other plant that you didn't have before. I'm not sure how to actually spawn trees though, to be honest. Not sure if that's even possible. Anyway, yeah, it does a check to see, okay, is there anything on the map, any new type, and then just add that to the list. And it just defaults, it starts it off at false. I guess it's more relevant for animals. So the same thing happens for animals. But yeah, this is fine. We don't need to change that one. What is this? If first time, trigger transfer filter. So this is actually, this is setting up the filter the first time we use it to enable everything that is in the list of allowed plants. We can't have that done. We can't do that because that would just set everything, and it sets things to true that are false in the the targeting filter. Does it matter if I delete this? No, not really, because this only applies to new jobs. Where does that first time come from, and do we still need it now? Oh, that's just the local. Okay. I don't think it is anymore. No. And we'll need to fix the references to that as well, but they'll pop up eventually. So this is fine. Oh. This is our setter that we've just defined, so that needs to have this. And this is just getting things again. Alright, cool. Then hopefully the only other references to this are actually in the tab, and it looks like that is indeed the case. So that's good. We don't want references to these kind of jobs in places that are not tightly coupled together. If there were references to the manager job foraging specifically in another area, that would really be like an entanglement of roles, and that would be bad. So we can have references to the base class of manager job, that's fine, because that's shared for everything, but not to the child class. But that seems to be the case, so yay me. Right, we define a local of allowed plants, or I guess this is kind of just a shortcut to it. And we take the keys from that. Okay, sure. Yeah, so here this. These are the getters to see if the check should either be on or off, and if it's neither on or off, then we have the medium state, or the what is it, undefined state, that one. And if all of them are on, then it'll be on. Yeah, sure, whatever. Not terribly interesting, but this is what happens when you click the main check, because then it sets everything to either on or false with that, everything that meets that category. So this needs to be changed to our getter now. So I have to go on the selected, set plant allowed, pay, and this is true, and we do want to sync this. Huh, what is pay here? Why is it allowed there? Because it doesn't know what it is apparently or something? Oh, it doesn't know what pay is anymore because it's coming from something that is not defined now. That's kind of annoying. We should be able to say listing def here. Does that help? No. Yeah, but it's because it also it isn't a listing dev, it's a dictionary thing dev. That does help. Okay, cool. This is set plant allowed, p false, and again we want to sync it. That was that one. Next, don't care about this, but we'll need to change this. Thing the fool. And this will be irrelevant once we change this one to actually be something again. But now we're just helping along. Whatchamacallit? We're like helping on the auto complete stuff, and then the compiler to know what we actually want it to be. So this is a simpler version because this is just a one check for each plant. So this is a simpler version of my utilities for drawing toggles. So we don't have to go over a loop or something, but the principle remains the same. Set plant allowed, plant, I forgot, is this? Oh wait, no, this is just a getter. I don't need to change this at all. This is the one. Set plant allowed, this is for plant, and then the value will still be this little bit. So we're basically just toggling it back and forth. That's simple enough. So we're taking the current value and reversing it with the exclamation mark. All right, and then there seems to be one more reference, and that is to refresh allowed plants. Oh yeah. And that's complaining because we don't have the first time flag anymore. So I think now it's only just complaining about allowed plants. So let's see what happens if we turn that back. Allowed plants. So that's one part of it done. So if we click on allowing one of the plants in the filter, and we click here somewhere, or indeed on these, then it should get copied to the threshold. Now we need to go from the threshold in the other direction. This is what we've got this function for, but we need to make sure that this is actually used. I'm not entirely sure how that gets done, but it should be easy enough to find out how. There's one reference to it, and yeah, it's just when you declare interesting. Okay, so I've got a specific constructor for different types of jobs. I didn't even know I had that. Either way, I should probably, considering I'm doing it on multiple different subtypes of the manager job, I should probably add it to the base type, or add like the notified threshold filter changed as a virtual on the base type so that I can just override it on the subtypes where I want it. Because one of the things I would like to achieve, and I kind of partially achieve at the moment, is the ability for other modders to add their own tabs. And that might technically be possible. I've never really tried it myself. I'm suspecting there's a lot of hard references and things that would need to be changed a little bit and set up differently or whatever. But theoretically, it should be possible to add your own tabs and add them to the manager. Maybe. So if anybody wants to give that a try, by all means, let me know. And if you run into any problems, I will happily help you resolve them, because I want to make that as painless as possible. So in that vein, let's actually do it. So we need to say make a a new constructor just for a manager job. And that will call job manager as its base. Now we need to change all of these to just use the manager job one. I think that should work, does it not? I guess that's not technically possible? Interesting. Because it wants to use that one. That's a new one for me. Never tried this before. Well, maybe I shouldn't start trying it now. Let's leave that for now. Let's just finish what we started before we go on to anything new. So we've added the thing filter change notification. So that is now properly hooked up. And then we just need to do the part where we get what could possibly drop from a plant. So var, let's call this plant def, because that is the base def, and then the plant is actually plant def plant, because that is the plant properties subpart of it. So this is where all of the interesting stuff will happen, hopefully. If plant is null, we'll return some kind of exception. Arc null exception. No valid plant def supplied or something. It really doesn't matter terribly much what is in here unless the user can actually either do something about them, which is not the case in this code. And then I just want something that if I try to find this in my assembly, it leads back to where it's actually raised and what it's going to be. And it doesn't have to be all that informative besides that. So this is just no valid plant def defined. And obviously we don't return exceptions, we throw them. Because they're basically temper tantrums. Alright, so we've checked our inputs. Let's go on a little exploration. What is in a plant? So it should be harvestable, but we don't particularly care about that. Drop leaves, no. Fertility. Harvest tag is sometimes useful because trees have like a harvest stack of wood or tree or something specific, even though they don't. But what we're actually looking at is just a harvested thing def. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember this because in vanilla there's really only you can only have one thing dropping from plants, and some people don't like that because it's possible for you might, for example, want grains to drop straw as well as the grain. You can then feed the straw to your animals, and you can use the grain for baking bread or whatever. So I know there are some mods that implement that, or at least I think there are. And things like coconut trees dropping multiple things or whatever. Sorry, I touched the mic there. Shouldn't do that. But I don't think that should be my concern here, because I have no idea how another mod would implement that. So I'm just going to assume that everything is vanilla. And if a mod changes that, then we'll have to make a compatibility patch at some point, or they'll just have to patch this. Yeah. So I don't need to do the any check here because there's only one thing that could possibly drop. So trigger threshold filter allows plant. No, this is get materials in plant. And this is even already kind of ridiculous, but that's we don't need this helper function anymore because this is such a simple construct. But let's leave it there because we might make this more complicated later. Yeah, we need to do a similar thing here. Okay, so yeah, you do actually do that in Apothecary. Okay, you've planted multiple items. You harmonize the output to stun an additional item or items, but no real way to attribute this extra object, as not even using a mod extension or custom dev for this attribution. Yeah. Yeah, so then there's not really any way for me to check whether or not that is happening. So I guess now you're aware that I'm doing it here. And you know what? Let's make this easier. I will make this a list again. And I'll just return a new list with just that element in it. And if you want to change it, you can just override this and return a list with multiple elements. That way you only have to change one thing instead of several things. That should work, right? No, I'm not allowed to do that. Because I can't initialize it like this. Ugh, I always hate this. Can I do it like this? I forget how this works. How do you do list and initialization and declaration on one line, basically? Is it an array? Can I? Is this possible? This sounds like it shouldn't be possible. No. Right. That makes sense. Right. Let's just create it first and then yeah. But you never know what users will actually want to use for it. So I mean, for example, with the grain example, most people will care about the grain and see the actual straw as a side product. But you'll always have the people that want to use the straw and want to use their animal farm and then do it that way or something. So I don't like assuming that this is how it's being used. So we'll just leave it like that. I want to find out how to initialize how to initialize list. Wow, Google. Are you spying on my stream? Yeah, so you have to say new thing and then element. Yeah, okay. Whoop-de-doo. Yeah, but I want to add an element immediately. I don't want to have like first declaring it and then adding it and then returning it because I don't know. I think it's ugly to spread that over 3 lines when it's just a 1 item list. I know it's silly. Then we need to work this around again. Different way. Any material What was it again? Trigger threshold filter allows material. Right. Should we test that? I'd be very surprised if that actually works. Managed mining does not have a definition for sync direction. No, because it's not there anymore. But this is interesting though, because we didn't account for this yet in our version of it. So this is an on Opar filter details delegate that we can use, and that apparently we need to change the sync direction. That makes total sense. And this is just in utilities now. So we need to do the same thing in the foraging manager tab. So that's in draw threshold settings and draw trigger config, and then I guess it's just the last where was this hidden? Draw trigger config, designation label getter, system organization, system action on Opar filter details is no. RFF is Rainbow's Photo Fields, I think. I'm having trouble using a... Yeah, okay. I didn't know they actually added plants. I thought that was just, yeah, fields. And like sowing it and how do you call it? Plowing and things like that. Fertilizer. This is draw trigger config. This is the same thing. Am I actually just that blind? Oh, yeah. Yes, I am, as usual. This is just utilities. Yeah. This is a delegate. I really don't like the delegate syntax. Let's use the new stuff. This is the lambda syntax. I still don't understand what exactly the difference is between the two, because as far as I can see, they get converted to exactly the same thing behind the scenes. But it doesn't. It just triggers for all plants with some hooks to vanilla type grasses, and whether it's a tree or a bush type. Oh, okay. So it's just like in Minecraft, for example, or whatever. These kind of games, if you cut down a tree, you get some leaves and a couple of branches, and you get the actual thing you were doing. And that also then applies to if you were, I don't know, cutting down a strawberry plant or something. You would get a couple of leaves and some branches or whatever. Cool. Yeah, that is cool. And that would still be, I mean, it'd still be the same kind of thing. And with this way of doing it, with getting a list, you could even like postfix both of you and just add something. Just yield return and then add whatever you were using. And Rainbow could do the same thing. And then the problem would be that branches probably don't actually show up on the list of allowed things that are harvestable from plants or something, because that's the only place where I'm actually using that, but that's the next problem. Okay, so we make a manager job for foraging. We look at the target. There's nothing in there. We add something. And we get an error. Damn it. It was so nice. System null reference, not set on instance. In, set plant allowed. The hell? Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say I do have that one. The hell is follow? Wrong button. Oh, I just used it in a different place. So what happens when you build your own little debug logging thing? I'm wondering if allowed plans is it's not somehow null here, which really it shouldn't be, but never know. Left operand is never null because it's initialized as a thing, so it cannot be null. No? How is that? Alright, well, I believe it. Sync filter allowed is an enum that's initialized at something, so that cannot be it. We're checking the plant, so that cannot be it. Are we returning? If trigger parent filter, is there a parent filter on this? Maybe that's the problem. I'm not sure if I'm actually setting it explicitly always. So that's when we initiate the manager job. When we create it, we need to say what the parent filter is. So this is where the trigger gets set. Yeah, so here we set a parent filter, but we don't actually do that for plants. Maybe we should, but I've had some contrasting opinions about that. I do it for some jobs. Like I do it for meat mostly, actually. I restrict what is allowed to be set here, what is allowed to be used there, so you can't use meals, for example, and that's mostly because these are all roughly the same value things, so you can actually make a useful comparison between if you count just meat and you look at how much meat an animal produces, then you can say like, okay, if I want 200 more meat, I need to butcher one more elephant or 100 more bunnies or whatever. But if you're counting meals, then it gets a lot harder to do that, because then you need to know how much calories are in the meal, basically, and how much meat do you need for that calorie, and like the way that works. So that's why I limit it there. But then in other cases, I don't limit it at all. So for example, for trees, I just allow you to do whatever the fuck you want. Like you can have trees that grow IED traps. Sure, fine. You can do that. You can cut down trees until you have a certain number of IED traps. I'm leaning towards that version of things, to be honest. Maybe I should have it as a setting or something. Either way, the problem is that we don't have a parent filter. Well, that's simple enough. We'll just create one and allow everything. Yay! Parent filter is a new thing filter. Parent filter set allow all. Do I need to do anything for this? Okay. Does it allow everything by default? This is where it gets created. Blah blah blah. Allow def count. What is allowed def counts? Allowed defs get set. Allowed devs is new hash set thing. No, so that's not automatically created. It's also not in the constructor. Okay. So when you're setting it, it adds it if it isn't added already. So I am assuming when you're getting it and if it isn't already in the hash set, then it will say no, screw you. But we can find out this allowed devs contains dev. Yeah, so it needs to be in the list. If it's not in the list, you won't get added. So in other words, it is initialized as everything is not allowed. We could have also easily checked that by looking at set disallow all, because that will probably just empty the list. Yeah. Yeah, you can use some predicates here, but basically it will disallow everything. Clear the route devs if the parent filter is not no, else if the parenting unit. Okay, so I can just give it a parent filter of no. You could have told me that earlier. Alright. Lovely. And filter set allow all. Oh. Goodie. That gives us a parent filter, so we should remove that null ref, and it still allows everything. Let's see if it works now. All right, so we're on the foraging tab. Everything is disallowed again as it should be. We allow a berry bush. We don't get an error this time. And meat, vegetarian, berries is now allowed. Awesome. What happens conversely? So if we allow rice to be counted as something, nothing should happen. Okay. Okay, so we're doing multiple enumeration somewhere or something. So that's in notify threshold filter changed. We need to look at that. Because we're doing multiple enumeration. Apparently I do need to cast the keys to a new list then. I think, because I thought I didn't and I changed that. So if I do something that can drop from any of this, so if I remove the berries, for example, it's not going to work because it's giving me the error. Yeah. Okay. So in this one, I set, I used to have, where was it? I find it with this. Yeah, I was basically doing this. I was casting a new list from the keys of allowed buildings, and apparently I do need to do that because I was assuming that when you get the keys, it would automatically do that. Yeah, new key collection. This looks like it's a new collection that is separate from the underlying one, so therefore you could iterate over that while at the same time iterating over the other one. But apparently you're not allowed to do that. At least that's what I think now. What I hope, because that would be an easy fix, and otherwise I don't know what the exact problem is. But let's find out. Manage job, foraging, plant in, create a new list. skis. Yeah. I have a question for you guys, by the way. I'm thinking about whether or not I should add music to my stream, because I'm not listening to music now, and normally I would be. So I wondering how you guys feel about that. Like, do you guys just like to listen to your own music? Because I can entirely imagine that my taste in music would annoy people. And it's nice to have me talking a little bit as a background, and you can just play your own music or game or whatever. And if I play music, then that would be distracting. But I'm wondering what you guys think about that. In the meantime, let's go to the berries again. And it's raw food, vegetarian, berries. Didn't error. Also didn't do anything because we're on a different type of map. But agave works. Awesome. Then we kind of just need to add the check. Yeah. So was I, to be honest. That would be a very good suggestion, actually. Just have a separate volume switch for music. Or maybe have it on a different audio track. I was playing around with my my streaming software and stuff, and you can define separate audio tracks. Like I think you have up to 8 or something. So theoretically, it should be possible to add like voice as one track and music as another or something like that. But far be it from me to. Okay, so we've implemented that. I wanted to just add the toggle to the tab so we can disable it, or people can disable it if they want to. So we've already added the underlying field for that, the bool. We still need to scribe that so that it gets persisted over save games. And we need to add it to like these draw functions. I'm not entirely sure where though, so let's just go to this one. So these are the menu sections. So I guess this is in threshold settings. Yeah, this one. That's all there is to it. Yeah. And we can basically just copy paste that into the manager tab for foraging. We're already in the right spot, and just add it there. Then we'll add the translations. I think those will be copy pasting as well, but let's find out. It could go either way. Yeah, I switch around a lot. I've like I have a techno track that I listen to at work a lot, or like a techno station on Spotify, just because the beat keeps me going and it stops me falling asleep. I listen to jazz, I listen to classical, I listen to hip hop, R&B, pop, whatever. I also don't particularly care about music. I just care about it as a background thing. So you'll never hear me raving about this new track by whoever. It's just, yeah, the silence kind of annoys me. It bums me out. But I think I might just put on some headphones. That would probably be better anyway, if for like sound setup purposes. And that would also solve me any issues with like licensing sounds and everything. Because Twitch is, I think, fairly cool about it, and they mute the audio if you find any unlicensed music, which is annoying. They have some plugins from Spotify and everything, so I'm not even sure how that is supposed to work. Are you allowed to play Spotify on Twitch? Maybe, don't know. But YouTube, it can be a complete arse about it, and I do want to put my stuff on YouTube as well. So I don't really want to, put myself at risk there. So anyway, add phone to this, and I'll just leave it as a voice-only channel, and then you can play your own music. Awesome, thank you. We were going to look at the translations for this. So that'll be in the mining tab for now, because that was this one. We'll just find the section for foraging, and we'll add those there. Line it up nicely. Change that to foraging. Synchronize threshold is fine. Enabling this will try to synchronize the counted materials in the threshold filter with the plants allowed for foraging, and vice versa. Yeah, Powder, it is kind of weird, especially the first time. Like when I did my first stream and somebody just... I have a thing of coffee, but I should probably get some water soon. But anyway, somebody entered my stream, and I was just utterly unprepared for it, because my first couple of streams were just, I was trying to set up my environment and like play around with like OBS Studio, the streaming software and everything, and figuring out Twitch and Streamlabs and Restream and all these different services that you can use to do things for your stream. And somebody actually hopped in and yeah, just looked at it at me, because he was also trying to set up his own stream or something. But it's such an incredibly weird experience to know that somebody is watching you, but you can't see them, and you can talk to them, and they're perfectly fine. I mean, you can chat with them just fine. They're perfectly pleasant people. You're chatting back and forth, but they're just watching over your shoulder. You have no idea what they're looking at. Like maybe there's something somewhere where they love seeing that it's just stupid or whatever, and it's really weird. I had a stream. I think it was this Monday or Tuesday. I don't remember, but we were doing some fairly simple math I was trying to figure out, because we were trying to make it so that you could add, you could see if an animal would need to be shorn in the coming time period, and then you could send them to a specific area, which was the last feature we added to Colony Manager. And I just couldn't for the life of me figure out like in what order of operations things should happen anymore with this basic math formula. So I had a couple of people watching, among which Erdelf, who's like, he had, in the first 5 minutes I was struggling with this entire bit of code, he already had his version up, and he was taunting me, saying like, I have a version ready we can look at when you're done. And it took me 45 minutes or something to actually get it working, and it ended up to be basically the same code, but still, it's I normally would have done that in 10, maybe 15 minutes. It just took me 3 times as long, because I was just kind of panicking and having a brain freeze for people watching. You do get used to it quickly though. It's already coming a little bit more natural to know, like, people are watching, and that's okay, and I can chat to you and you guys are talking back, and that's, yeah, it's very nice. It's yeah, sometimes your brain just says like, yeah, I don't understand it anymore, and then you can poke it and do stuff with it, and it just blacks out. And it doesn't help that you have this feeling like you're being rushed, and there's people watching who you are disappointing because you're not being able to figure it out. While in reality, this is probably just actually it's just added entertainment value for them or something. I'm pretty sure Erdolf was laughing his ass off. Hi there, I2 Idik. Yo, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you here. But yeah, it's been nice. I've been streaming for a week now or something, and I'm usually for just a handful of people. I don't expect it to explode. I'm happy that there's a couple of people here, because if there's nobody here, I would feel incredibly weird about it. Yeah, I was. My problem was I needed to get a rate of something, so I was like okay, the rate of this is it was basically B times C. That's how I had written it. And what I should have been doing was A divided by B times C. that was the main problem that I didn't realize, and I had looked over like 5 times and I just didn't see it. And then I was going in my head like, okay, am I just doing this the whole thing the wrong way around? Should it have been like C divided by something or something? I was just doubting everything. It was terrible. You can, I'm sure it's on the VODs on Twitch if you want to, but I would advise against it. But tonight has gone a lot more smooth, I think. I don't remember any blackouts or anything, but maybe that's because I was blacked out. But I don't think so. Anyway, we changed this to foraging. We've added the translations. So they're now also somewhere. Yeah, here, and they've been corrected. Then we can build this. It'll automatically copy over the new translations and stuff as well. Refresh. Welcome back, Adolf. How'd your play session go? You playing RimWorld or? No, I was just explaining about when was it, on Tuesday, that I was having trouble with figuring out the rate function for the wool time thing and stuff, and that it took me an hour to like realize what I was doing in this basic math problem. But that was to a large extent because I was like, it's very weird to have an audience, and I was explaining that it's getting a little bit better. Yeah, I do that. When I used to do that. I would write everything with parentheses, and then when my compiler told me it's okay to remove them, I was like, okay, sure, remove them. But generally speaking, and also for very large lists of like nested if statements or something, just add them. If it makes it clearer, just add them. Which I guess is fine. I mean, in the end, the code needs to be readable and maintainable, so. Okay, that seems to work. We can select stuff in there that's hooked up with what we're doing here. We can turn this toggle off, and now if we clear everything in this threshold, this still stays here. Vice versa, we turn it back on, we select everything here, and then a bunch of things did not get turned on there. Why not? Is the all one not hooked up? That's entirely possible. I think that might be it. So if we turn on edible plant. Yeah, that one did work. Not sure why it turns on ambrosia, but I guess it's edible. Heroot isn't. All right. You did that a lot when you started. Yeah. It's readable probably later at some point, maybe. Did you work on large scale projects, or is it mostly like indie games, or can you say what kind of stuff you worked on? Right. Okay. Because I can imagine in a larger project, it's more people looking at the same code, and you need more of a standardized way of doing things. But I don't know. That's from my very limited experience as an academic doing some code, which is usually terrible. But I'm a lot better as my professors. I have some. I had to translate or like recode basically a bit of program from my professor who used Fortran 70, which is like the flavor of Fortran they used in the 70s. It's fairly self-explanatory. And we were doing item response theory. It's not really all that important, but the thing is that you have, at some point, you have matrix algebra, and you have quite, it's a fairly complex estimation and whatever. If not false, because it's true. Yeah, oh god. And crunch times. Yeah. Well, I only have the crunch stamps I put on myself. Anyway, but that's a Fortran 70, and he had a habit of naming his variables just in the order they appeared. So that would be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever, until infinity. And if he ran out of names, then it would just be A, B, whatever. It is terrible. No comments anywhere. Just sometimes a link to where he found this original algorithm, or like a reference to a book or something. But he wrote this shit in the 70s and 80s. So I mean, links don't work anymore. Books are unable, they just don't exist anymore, or you have to get them from some stuffy cabinet somewhere. So it's basically just reverse engineering what is actually happening. And the best bit about this is that this is before matrix operations were a thing in programming languages. So you can't just like multiply a vector by a vector or anything like that. You have to iterate over them, and you have to make little helper functions to go through like which value is in which cell of a matrix and everything. And then it just became this horrible mess of things. I without any annotation, any logical names, it was great fun. That was the first year of my work at university. I loathed the guy. Great guy otherwise, but terrible code. Terrible code. We were looking at the so we've got the planned shortcuts, and we were looking at the yeah. So in here, there should be one for all plants. Yeah, we just missed that one. We just didn't touch it. All right, silly. That's basically it. Simple enough. That should fix it. So this is for the shrooms, so we need to do the same thing again there. I wonder why I haven't wrapped this into some kind of helper function or whatever. But I guess I didn't think I would have to do this very often. Right, that's all three of the little helper thingies that we have. Hence the recursive style. Yeah, I guess. I never had the pleasure of doing that. I started coding and playing around with PHP. That was when I was like a teenager or something. So I was born in '85. I'm 34 now. I was yeah, so like that would be early 2000s, I guess, when I was first actually starting to code a little bit. And I just wrote spaghetti code. I mean, I had some exposure to projects in PHP that used object-oriented style in PHP, which is I still don't fully understand because I think it's kind of weird. But that was just black magic to me back then. I think I only truly started doing object-oriented code when I was modding. So when I got exposed to C#, that was my first like real proper programming language. Because I was working with R for work. R is a statistical programming language, but that's yeah, it has an object-oriented mode, but you normally don't really use that in packages and stuff. But that's advanced usage. And I was working with JavaScript and TypeScript a little bit, but mostly just JavaScript, and that was not big enough to really need object-oriented things. But yeah, I mean it's nice. It helps. But I miss. I mean, I guess you also have. If you like also in old school, you had some experience with like you have a formal IT education. Do you? Oh, for crying out loud, how is this still not working? So this way is working, that is working, that is working. Great. But if I set all edible plants here, that is working. Clear all. If I set all mushrooms, so that's Glowstool and Agaricus should now be. And that basically should boil down to the raw thing. Did I just not reload it properly or something? Did I rebuild it? Read electronic engineer at UMIST UK. Okay, so this is well before my time, I guess. No, I miss it sometimes. I don't know how to set up a project. Like when I plan something, when I plan a mod, I start building it a little bit, and I'm gathering a little bit of experience with how I should be doing it. But generally speaking, I have to rewrite it 3-4 times because things don't work the way I imagined they would work from the beginning. And this is getting a lot better because it used to be like I had to rewrite it 10 times or something. Well, that's overreacting, but you miss that experience of like having an idea of how a project is going to work out, having an idea of how algorithms are going to work and what the complexity of that is going to be, what kind of data structures you would use most efficiently. And I'm trying to educate myself about that, but it's it's not easy. I wanted to take some courses in that, like programming and everything, and like the formal side of things. But my supervisor, my promoter, said that was not in the budget, and besides, I wouldn't need it anyway because I could already program better than him. So why would I need to get better? And I was like, yeah, but no, seriously, it's not easy to be better. Anyway, it was no, it stayed no. So oh well, I'll just hobby around and see what happens. This is turning into a talk show. Anyway, was I just an idiot and did I not properly rebuild? It looks like it. Yeah, that is now working. Okay, good enough for me. Good enough for government work. And the labels are also right? Yeah, that works. Okay. Let's push that. At threshold sync for foraging. Encloses issue number. No, that's not the one. Foraging jobs ignore threshold. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's just mislabeled because he misrepresented what it was going to be. 150. Alright, you got the link to that, Smashville? I'm done with this anyway. We could have a look together, and then I think that'll be the end of the stream afterwards. We can do some, how do you call it? Collaborative programming or something? The performance of today's computing, luxury for Yorkshireman Monty Python. You know, I like Monty Python most of the time in short bursts, but I'm not familiar with that. You should look it up. Do they have many of them? No idea. Let's find out. We've closed that one, but let's quickly reply to it. Actually, this was working as intended, but I've now added the sync functionality to the foraging tab as well. Okay. And let's have a look. For some reason, this list of Infect3 is not saving me. For the life of me, I can't figure out why. So, we've got exposed data, we're going base exposed data. So you have a list of collections, look, Infect3. And it's not saving and not loading. Well, I guess if it's not saving, it's not loading as well. But it's specifically not writing to the save file, I guess. Right? Yeah, I was wondering about that as well. So if you use look mode undefined, it goes through here, and then it uses the parse helper to handle a type, basically, right? Parse helper handles type. So if this primitive is enum or parse helper parsers contains key type. So if there is a parser defined for this, then it'll work. From string vector 3, is that not it? No. Could be. But the vector 3 is using floats, not ints. If you have it undefined, it tries to infer it. So this is basically what happens. If look mode is undefined, then it will figure it out for you. Or try to, anyway. Is it complaining about that? Is it giving you any errors, or? Well, if it is anything, then it would be value, yes. But we need to look if if this list of parsers, is that really just an object? There must be something else in there. Yeah. So here, this is what's happening. So this is what it's using. And this is defined by RimWorld itself. So this is what it's using to parse it, at least. And I think for saving it, it might use the 2vector3 version of it. We should be able to find out. Is there a cleaner version of this? Why can I not find it anymore? What I was looking for? Because I've gone away from it, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, so it handles the type if it's either a primitive, it's an enum, or the parser contains that key. But this is just to go from the object, from a string to an object, so that's literally just only reading it. Yeah. So we know that the look mode becomes value because this will return true. Agreed? So let's see what happens then. So it goes into yeah, so for each value in the list, it goes into a list item, and it has the label list item. Yeah, annoying, but okay. And it just uses scribe value. So if we go to that one, yeah, this is saving. So go to that one, go to saving again. Alright, this is just a bunch of error messages. So this is scribe, saver, write element, label, value to string. So it's just using the to string representation of an int_vec. So I guess that's just the... Yeah. So int_vec is defined... So this is wholly defined by Rimworld itself. This does not exist in Unity. So the toString representation of that is just... Is it even defined yet? There we go. Yeah. I don't know why this... I think this should just work, Smash. Clearly it doesn't, but... Why are you initializing it with an object 0 kind of thing? Do you need to do that? I never did that. Yeah. Okay. And you're sure this list is populated before you try and save it? No idea. Very... No, because it runs with look mode value. That's what it defaults to. Because this... that's what it's going to do anyway. Because... it basically describe collections. If you've got look mode undefined, it calls this function. Like this, does the parse helper handle this type? Which checks if the parsers contain that key, blah 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 blah. And in the parser list, it has it was adding something for int_vec3. Yeah, this is all compiler generated mess, but it added that somewhere. Yeah. And you've also got the functions here that it's adding, so this should be registered somewhere. Yeah, like we were saying, Adolf, you can hardcode it, but you don't need to because it's defined basically. It's not necessary. I'm trying to think if I ever use infect3s. I don't think I do. Or at least I don't scribe them. And definitely not as a list. You can try. Yeah. Got a couple of places where I use them. Yeah, the positions. Well, that is ancient. I might be using it and storing it in blueprints. You can have a look at that. Yeah, all this other stuff is ancient and or yeah, this is a list of wind cells, but I'm not saving that. No, I'm not saving any of that. So let's see if I can find an example in blueprints. That would be in the source. Where would that be? Probably in the blueprint itself. And expose collections, look, buildable things. Yeah, but that's a list of I think even a subclass that I define. Oh no, list of buildable info. But yeah, that itself is again an exposable. I don't think anything else uses it there, so no, I don't know. And everything else is saving. So you should always save. I don't know if this bug is still around, but there used to be a bug that you should save references before you save values. So maybe just, and I think that the bug used to be that the references got lost, and I don't think values actually got messed up, but you might want to try scribing the references before you scribe values. That's kind of a Hail Mary, though, to be honest, because I can't see any reason why, if that list exists and why it wouldn't be saving. Although I'm wondering now. No, that doesn't have a default, does it? So we're looking at list T. Oh. Mode mode and constructor arcs. Yeah, none of that is very interesting. If it handles type of that, then it's a value, so it becomes a value type, and otherwise nothing. But you don't get an error for that, so that can't be the problem. Then it starts entering things, and if it's a loop mode, save mode saving. If it's null, then it just writes null. It doesn't do that. Otherwise, loop through each item. We're in value mode, and it just prints out a list item with the default value for the default of that. Yeah, sure. Yeah. No. Are they all defaulting to 0, 0, 0? So wait, the whole list says it's null. And you're sure it's not? Absolutely triple 100% honestly sure. Have you added some debug right before here? There's no reason why it could become null just before the saving or something. I'm just spitballing here. Because I mean, I get that you're checking it in the tick, but it still makes me a little bit nervous. Yeah, because it still makes me a little bit nervous that you're not actually checking it in the exposed data. So I would really just add the line there, just to see if it's actually for some stupid reason a null there. And I know it shouldn't be, but it's just me being paranoid. Otherwise, I can't see any reason why that shouldn't work, to be honest. Kind of tempted to just yeah, but you're never resetting the list, so even if the list is empty, it shouldn't say null. It should just give an empty list. And if he gets the feedback that it's there, I mean, it might be iffy, but should at least save. Just going to quickly abuse this one to test it. The map reference is null too. Shouldn't matter that you're saving it twice. This may be a very stupid question, but are you supposed to actually explicitly type them? And I don't think it should matter. But the only thing I can see that is the same between those is that you're using a typed version of them. I'm also not sure where original map comes from and if it ever gets set, to be honest. But yeah, that's where you're doing it twice. You're using it, getting a parent from it. Do you actually set it anywhere? Just for... Alright, sure. Yeah, okay. No, fair enough. I mean, yeah, like I said, I don't see any reason why that shouldn't work, to be honest. So I'm just grasping at straws. I'm just gonna try and expose like a random list of infects in MyMod, see if that does anything. Skyfaller comes in, gets the destination, and uses this field to immediately launch back the world map. It sounds very cool. No idea what it actually means. Yeah. Right, so let's declare this first. We have a var test is new list int vec3, and we just learned again how to do this, and then we can say new int vec3, 1, 3, whatevs. And we only really need one element in there, so this should be good. Right? Theoretically, maybe? Oh yeah, that needs to be new. Then we can store that as ref test with the label test and look mode undefined. So we don't even need to touch any of the other stuff. This should work. So, if I now start any job with any mining job in the manager and save that, then we should have a one item list, blah blah blah. Yeah, that's what I also said. Like, put your debug code right next to the saving so you know what's going on. Ooh. My kittens are playing with the wire for my camera.
Where are you at?
Don't know where he is. What was it? Mining, right? Yeah. So just manage a job and add another one and another one. That should be enough. We'll just save that. Test scribe list int vec3. Alright, so this is the save game. And now we can just look for test. Here's the thing, that none of the messages are being printed out from the exposed data method. Then it's just not getting called. Yeah, that is what I meant. But I mean, you need to explicitly just create some test messages there, of course. Just like what was it? Log message. But I mean, I can. And this is a terrible logging message because it doesn't actually show me what's in there, but at least shows me that this is a list of infacts and maybe even the amount of things in there. But Smashville, this is what I have. What I had, I just define a list of infacts with one infact in there. I scribe it without declaring the look mode or like the arguments to reinstate it, the constructor arguments, and I get where was it? I get it just fine in my save game. So the basic scribing of an infact list is just working without any issue, as far as I can see. So you must have something else wrong. And if you're not getting any test output from your exposed data, that probably just means that it's not actually getting called. What do you, no, yeah. Yeah, let's see, exposable. Yeah, I mean, this cannot be in the thing because then everything would break. I mean, yeah, it's not it anyway. As a static constructor, do the save mode users need to be instantiated for missing elements that aren't defined until runtime? They need to be instantiated for missing elements that aren't defined until runtime, or only saved for specific save modes. I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, as a static constructor, do the save mode users need to be instantiated for missing items that aren't defined until runtime, only for save for specific mode. You mean if you have a static class and then the values into that are only loaded when you load it? Yeah, that depends. Are you using them before you load them into? But yeah, in theory, if you try to use if you have a static class where you don't initiate the values or properties or whatever, the fields of that class, until you load a save game, then you can't use those. You will get null references and stuff. That is, yeah, that's correct. I actually ran into that issue myself. Not even sure where anymore. and it was basically a mistake. But it's just that during initialization of the mod, it actually tried to call something that called stuff that was only available after it was being scribed, after the settings were loaded or something like that. But it's, yeah, it is something to be aware with your initialization cycle. Do you have the whole thing on Git, Smash? You do, right? Yeah. Not stable. Just go for it. Mods. Oh, wrong button. So let's see if I can quickly load up the workspace for that. I'm going to look for about 10 more minutes or something, and then I do need to log off because we need to take the dog out before it gets too late, and then I have to go back to work tomorrow, so I can't make it too late. Let's see. I hope I don't need many more extra DLLs or something, but we'll find out. Looks like just the normal ones. Yeah, I'll probably just need to re-add them to make sure that they're pointing to the ones I use. But yeah. I have too much of this shit. I think it's that one. Yeah, that should be it. Alright, and we were looking at this one, bombing? Yeah. Or was it from the Skyfaller that it was... You see, you could say in exposed data if safe mode is not game safe, then set values as a coverall. The method names associated. Yeah, that's the scribe mode. I think I'm actually doing that here, or am I not? Yeah, I'm kind of doing it here. This is a different thing though. This is my own hacky version of it, which is actually not even used anymore, but whatever. But you could use if scribe mode equals, and then there's a bunch of like loading bars, post load init, and etc. So during load you have 3 phases, and then yeah, you can play around with them. I think the first phase just loads the raw data. Then in resolving crossrefs, it gets the crossrefs get resolved. Duh. But that's things like def, the references to def files and stuff get resolved, or other things that that can be cross-referenced. So bills, pawns, anything with e referenceable, I think. And finally, post load init is just loading things up and stuff. You could try instantiating them inside the method when not a save game at runtime. Ooh, I'm sorry. Hey, Oslin. Hey. You could try instantiating them inside the method when not save game at runtime. Well, normally you would do that in the constructor, Powder, but yeah, theoretically. So that is apparently not being called, and yet the values are saving, just not the reference or collection. Right, I'm just going to take this back out and go back to SRTS. Which class are we looking at? Is it the Skyfaller or? Right, yeah? Yeah, this looks like it. Ooh, good question. Have you set this up so that it yeah, cool. So it puts the DLL in assemblies. Awesome. That means I can use my little thingy. SRT something mods that theoretically. What are you complaining about? Probably it's outside of the correct directory. Alright, whatever. We'll do it manually. Am I blind? I'm not seeing it. Right, just need to refresh it. Yes, I need to refresh you as well. Add that in, remove those. Right. Alright, there's a bunch of errors there. I'm assuming you're aware of those? I guess he's just reverberating, or what do you call that? Like a synchronized sound wave thingy on the right volume. This is Roslin. He's our kitten. He's just 3 months old now, I think. No, he's older. He's 4 months. But he's becoming quite a teenager. Yes. He's helping. I'm getting a bunch of errors. Bunch of things on the. Maybe I'm just not. I'm just copied over what you had in the repository in like all of the files. After open up your mod settings for SRTS options, mod settings. Yeah, it's not even there. It's just failing to load it completely. I'm guessing it has something to do with me just compiling it once, not looking at if it works correctly or something, and then just copying over the whole folder. Yeah, possibly. I mean, it said it was, but. Wait, assemblies is actually not there? That might explain it quite a bit. Oh yeah, that's because it's actually not where I think it would be. Yeah, I thought that I saw from the output that it was getting copied, but so it will be an object debug as yes, this one. This is why I automate all of this stuff. What? Why is my computer being so slow? What are you doing to me? Yeah, possibly. It's always a problem with this kind of stuff. Like the build environments are not the same, and then things break. It doesn't want to play nice though. Let's see if I can just do it directly here. For some reason, it doesn't want to make folders. Or here. What the? I have to manually refresh it every time. Something is wrong there, but anyway. No, it shouldn't do anything. I mean, it might lead to some weirdness during the loading phase, during like references resolving and stuff. That might lead to some errors there, but I'm not even sure it would. Alright, well, it's not erroring this time, so that's something at least. Yeah, this is all me. That's also still me. Alright, so what do I do to test this? Can I spawn in bombs or something? God mode, spaceship. Cool. Just any of this or? Wow. Either skip Albatross or Phoenix. Which one do I like better? I think the Albatross looks cool. Why does it not work? Oh, it needs to be on heavy supporting. Yeah, sure. Whatever. Looks pretty good. Cool. It's a bit weird that the steel is on top of it, though. Alright, and then? Should I launch it or something? Or? Fuel it up. Transfer the last bit, so you can decide who and what should be loaded inside. Alright, so these are basically the transporters, but just different? Fill her up with some mortar shells. How do I do that? I haven't played in forever. So spawn thing. 25? Is that gonna work? I forget what the stack size is for that stuff. Alright. Let's do some high explosive. That's just single ones. Right. There we go. Cannot hold on. I have no idea how to do this anymore. Honestly. How do you put stuff in transport? There's no button here to put stuff in it. Alright, here's a launch group. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. It needs to be in a stupid thing. You know, I never play with transporters. I build colonies, or I use caravans. Anyway. Yeah, but then I need to do art. I don't do art. I mean, honestly, I'll show you my cats later, like the cat art I did when I started out. It's pretty hilarious. We'll now load that in there, so get going. Right, we've finished loading. Bomb target. I need a pilot. Kinko, you have become my pilot. Can I now start bombing? Awesome. Ooh, amazing. Let's bomb the shit out of some natives. And this active map is loaded. Right, so I need to go there first with a caravan, and then I can bring these people in to load it. Why can't I just bomb them to oblivion? Like, just carpet bomb the heck out of them. Alright, anyway, we can do that. We can do that. I just said that I occasionally used caravans, so I should now be able to do caravans, right? So otherwise I'm a liar. Form caravan. You're going. You're going there. Do it. No food. Because we're going to cheat anyway. Da-da-da-da. Yeah? Are you ready? There we are. Go there. Instantly. I can... Oh no, I need to attack them if I want to actually generate the map. Okay, so I can now... This is amazing, but I'm gonna have to actually install this mod. Can I just... Can I do multiple or can I just do one? Yeah, good point. Test bomb safe. Ooh, it's already doing something. Can you see it on the world map? What, is she back already? Did I miss it completely? She used some fuel. And she used all of the... Take all. Alright, let's do things slower this time. Go for it. Bomb a target. Bomb there. How does this work? Do I just click one position, or can I like do a strafing run or something, or 2 positions? Right. Ah, yeah, obvious. That's cool. Nice job on that one. Okay, let's follow her. Whoop. That is amazing. Pew 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 pew. Not quite as destructive as I was hoping, but I kind of needed to catch them in the act of bombing, didn't I? So if I try to save it now, then it's not going to work? No, I shouldn't have overwritten that. I'm a moron. Yeah, if you save it after you've sent it, that's where the problem lies. Oh yeah, because it's trying to represent where the bombs are. Okay, yeah. This is saving as an empty list for me, so that's not null. And the map and stuff, the number of bombs is 12, that's saving, but it's just an empty list. Alright, glad we got that sorted out. I still don't know what's going wrong, but I'm glad it's sorted out. I wanted to show you one last thing, and that's the reason I don't make content mobs anymore. Well, that's partially because of this stuff. This is my attempt at the managing station. The table is fine, but you have to remember that this is just a butchering table with the addition of the bits of paper on it, which is not exactly high quality work. This is getting quite iffy already, because that is a terrible computer. I'm actually proud of this one, but I mean, this is a block. But it has like the lights on there, they actually blink. So they have like different colors and stuff, and it works with like this overlay for like a Christmas tree color kind of thing. Yes, you can tell it's a computer. That's about all you can say about it, though. I have more. These were my kittens. Isn't that glorious? Seriously? Do I need to make this a slideshow? Okay. Yeah, you can still see that. This particularly is glorious, isn't it? I mean, look at that. Just look at that. How can I zoom in on this? There we go. It looks fairly Rimworldy. It has the black edges around it, not too much detail. I tried very hard on that, but it's still not... I had some people do some textures for me, and I mean, these I didn't make myself, so these are much better. And these were actually kind of cool. These were... the Phoenix would he would run around, start fires around him, but he would also eat fire. So he wouldn't eat grass or anything else. He would just eat fire. And if it rained, he would get hurt by that. And also, if there was no fire to eat anymore, then at some point he would just starve and die. Whereas the icy cat is kind of cruel. Well, both of them really, because they had a heart of ice and fire. So if you killed them, and they were quite tough, they would be like Thrumbo level with a couple of extra caveats, tough. But if you killed them, then you would get like their heart of ice or fire, which were basically magical items that either cooled or heated for free, which was kind of cool. I should really bring this stuff back. And the idea was also that it would have like some extra mechanics. You have a feeding bowl, you can put some kibble in, and then they could eat from that. And if you place them around in enough places, they would stop eating from your stockpiles. This is the first mod I ever did. And yeah, these are the living fire and frost. These were the hearts that I was talking about. Yeah, we got some wildcats as well. Yeah, and to be fair, Camera Plus didn't exist back then, so nobody was going to get this close. It was more about the impressions that I gave. But yeah, I mean, I kind of enjoyed doing some of these. This one actually looks fairly good. I'm not sure I did that one. Probably not. That doesn't look like me. I think somebody else did that one for me. This one is me, though, I think. Anyway. It's, yeah, it had cats in it, because at that point there were no cats in the game, and I also made some cat behaviors. So cats would actually sleep on your, Thanks. And the cats would actually sleep on colonist beds and stuff. They would lie at the foot end. They would scratch up random furniture. If you didn't have a scratching pool, they would just scratch up your furniture and you had to go and repair it. Stuff like that. And sometimes they would just go crazy and run around your base and things. It was kind of funny. I had a lot of fun with it at some point. Maybe we can re-implement it at some point as like a project, and then also I've thought about that a little bit already actually as maybe a project to show people how to make mods, and I could put it on YouTube or something. Because it's got a nice progression in it. You can start with just adding some cats, which is pretty simple. You just do the XML and the graphics, and okay, and you can add some cats in, and then you start, okay, well, I want to add some noises to that, and then you do that. That's the next level up. And then you get into the C# side of things, like, oh, I want to actually do some behaviors, which is actually how I learned. I mean, I wanted those cat behaviors to be in, and that's when I realized, okay, I need to do C# for that, and that's when I learned C# and got it. So it'd be cool to maybe do like a mini series on that or something. But that's all for tonight. I'm going to log off now. It was great fun with you guys. Also great fun debugging stuff. I'm going to be back tomorrow night again at 8, I think. I'm pretty sure actually. So yeah, thank you very much. Oh yeah, and I want you to show you my new, my awesome new, like, logging out screen. I'm in Central European time. So yeah, Amsterdam, but +1. So it's 11:30 for me now. So in about 20.5 hours I would be back then. Anyway, good night everyone. Thank you very much for joining me, and yeah, hopefully see you guys tomorrow. Bye bye.